The rain fell on the ruins of Busan like tears from a dying sky. Kang Do-yeon sat alone in the communications room, surrounded by machines that blinked and hummed in the darkness. 3 days. That was all humanity had left. 3 days before the Valari Dominion would begin its final attack on Earth. He was 32 years old, and he had spent the last 5 years watching his world burn. The Valari came from the stars with ships that blocked out the sun. Their weapons turned cities to dust. Their soldiers moved like shadows, tall and pale, with eyes that glowed in the dark. Humanity fought back with everything it had. It was not enough. It was never enough. Now, 80% of Earth belonged to them. The remaining humans hid in bunkers and ruins, waiting for an end that everyone knew was coming. Do-yeon adjusted his headphones and listened to the static. His job was simple. He monitored enemy communications, looking for any information that might help the resistance survive another day. Most of the time he heard nothing useful. Valari military chatter. Supply orders. Patrol routes. The voices of an empire that did not fear humanity at all. But tonight, something was different. A signal cut through the static. It was weak, almost lost in the noise, but it was there. Do-yeon leaned forward, his heart beating faster. This was not Valari military encryption. The frequency was wrong. The pattern was wrong. It was softer, older, like music from a forgotten time. He traced the signal. It came from Seoul, from a sector the Valari never patrolled. The old city center, where the first bombs had fallen. No one lived there anymore. No one human. Anyway, Do-yeon saved the recording and went to find his commanding officer. Lieutenant Yoon Hannah stood in the war room, studying maps that showed nothing but defeat. She was 30 years old, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. She and Do-yeon had grown up in the same neighborhood back when neighborhoods still existed. Back when children played in the streets and worried about school exams instead of alien invasions. Those days felt like someone else's memory now. "I found something," Do-yeon said. He played the signal for her. Hannah listened with a frown. "What is it?" "I don't know. But it's not military. The Valari don't use this frequency. I've never heard anything like it. A trap. Maybe? But why would they set a trap in a sector they've abandoned? There's nothing there worth protecting." Hannah was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Somewhere in the distance, Valari patrol ships moved through the clouds, their lights cutting through the darkness like hungry eyes. "We're going to die in 3 days anyway," she said finally. "We might as well die curious." They assembled a small team. 6 soldiers, all volunteers, all people with nothing left to lose. They traveled through the ruins at night, avoiding Valari sensors and patrol routes. The journey took 12 hours. By the time they reached Seoul, the sun was rising behind a wall of gray clouds. The old city center was a graveyard of broken buildings and twisted metal. Plants had begun to grow through the cracks in the concrete, green and stubborn, refusing to accept that the world was ending. Do-yeon followed his tracking device through the ruins. The signal growing stronger with every step, they found her in the basement of a collapsed apartment building. She was Valari. That much was clear. Tall and thin, with skin the color of pale lavender and hair like silver threads. But she was not like the soldiers Do-yeon had seen. Those were monsters in armor, weapons of war. This one wore simple clothes, torn and stained with dark blood. Her eyes, which shifted from gray to blue as she looked at them, were filled with something Do-yeon had never seen in a Valari before. Fear. The soldiers raised their weapons. Hannah held up her hand, stopping them. "Wait," she said. The alien female pressed herself against the wall, trembling. She was wounded, Do-yeon realized. There was a deep cut on her arm, and her breathing was shallow and weak. She looked at them not with the cold superiority of a conqueror, but with the desperate hope of a hunted animal. "Please," she whispered. Her Korean was broken, accented, but understandable. "Please, not hurt. I run away. They hunt me. My people hunt me." Do-yeon stepped forward slowly, his hands open and empty. "Why? Why would your people hunt you?" The alien's eyes shifted to gold, then back to silver. Tears ran down her lavender cheeks. "Because I know truth," she said. "I know what they hide. About you. About humans. Everything they tell us is lie." Hannah moved closer, her expression hard but curious. "What truth? What lies?" The alien shook her head, her silver hair falling across her face. "Not safe here. They come. They always come. Please, help me hide. I tell you everything. I promise. Everything." She collapsed then, her body finally giving in to exhaustion and blood loss. Doyon caught her before she hit the ground. She weighed almost nothing, light as a bird, fragile as hope. "Hey, what do we do?" one of the soldiers asked. Hannah looked at the alien in Doyon's arms, then at the gray sky above them. The Valari had taken everything from humanity. Their homes, their families, their future. Every instinct said to leave this creature here, to let her die alone in the ruins of a city her people had destroyed. But there was something in those shifting eyes, something that looked almost human. "We take her with us," Hannah said. The journey back was slower, more dangerous. They had to avoid twice as many patrols, and the alien needed rest every few hours. But they made it. They brought her to the bunker beneath Busan and put her in a locked room with medical supplies and guards at the door. She slept for 2 days. When she finally woke, Doyon was there. He had volunteered to be the first to speak with her, though he could not explain why. Something about the way she had looked at him in those ruins, like he was the first gentle thing she had ever seen. "My name is Real," she said. Her voice was soft, musical, nothing like the harsh commands of Valari soldiers. "I was Scholar. I study other species, learn about them, understand them." "And what did you learn about us?" Doyen asked. Real's eyes shifted through a dozen colors before settling on deep, sad blue. "I learned that my people have lied to me my whole life," she said. "They tell us humans are animals, dangerous, stupid, worthy only of being used." She paused, her hands trembling. "But you are not animals. You are beautiful. You create music and art and love. You fight for each other, even when there is no hope. You are everything my people have forgotten how to be." She reached out and touched his hand, her fingers cool and light. "They lied to us about you," she whispered. "About everything." And in that moment, looking into her shifting eyes, Doyen felt something he had not felt in 5 years of war. He felt hope. 1 week passed. Real stayed in the bunker beneath the ruins of Busan, hidden from the Valari ships that circled Earth like vultures waiting for a meal. The resistance members watched her with suspicion, with hatred, with fear. She was the enemy. Her people had killed billions of humans. Every person in that bunker had lost someone to the Valari, but Dojon visited her every day. He brought her food that she barely touched. He brought her water and blankets and books about human history. She read everything with hungry eyes, turning pages like each word was precious. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she laughed. Doyen never knew which reaction would come next. "Tell me about your people," he said one evening. Real sat on her small bed, her silver hair falling around her shoulders like moonlight. Her wound had healed, faster than a human wound would heal, but she still looked tired. Tired in a way that sleep could not fix. "The Velar have ruled the stars for 10,000 years, she began. "We were the first species in our region of space to travel between worlds. We found others. We conquered them. We used them. It is what we do. It is all we know how to do. Why?" Doyon asked. Her eyes shifted to a pale, sad gray. "Because we are afraid. We have always been afraid. Afraid that if we are not the strongest, someone will do to us what we do to others." She stood and walked to the small window, looking out at nothing. The bunker was underground, and there was only concrete and darkness beyond the glass. But she stared as if she could see the stars. "But there is something else," she continued. "Something the Dominion hides from everyone, even from most Valar." She turned to face him, her expression serious. "We are dying, Doyon. My species is dying." Felt cold. "What do you mean?" 10,000 years of conquest. 10,000 years of choosing only the strongest to reproduce. We have made ourselves perfect warriors, perfect rulers, but we have also broken something inside ourselves. Our genetics are collapsing. Each generation, fewer children are born. Each generation, more of us are sick, weak, wrong in ways our doctors cannot fix. In another 1,000 years, maybe less, there will be no Valari left. She moved closer to him, her shifting eyes now a bright, desperate gold. That is why we came to Earth. Not for your resources, not for your land. For you. For your DNA? Doyan felt his heart stop. Our DNA? Humans are young. Your genetics are diverse, strong, full of possibilities we lost long ago. My people discovered that human DNA can save us. It can repair what we have broken. It can give us a future. Real's voice broke. I was part of the research team that made this discovery. I believed it meant peace. I believed we would ask for your help, offer friendship, work together. But the Dominion leaders chose another way. They decided to take it by force. Yes, they will harvest what they need from humans, and then they will destroy every one of you. They cannot let the galaxy know that the mighty Valari needed help from a species we called animals. The shame would break our empire. Other species we have conquered would rise against us. So humans must die. All of you forever. Silence filled the room. Doyan thought about his parents, killed in the first attack on Seoul. He thought about his sister, lost somewhere in the chaos of the early war. He thought about every friend, every neighbor, every stranger who had died in the last 5 years. All because an empire was too proud to ask for help. Why did you run? He asked quietly. Real's eyes filled with tears, silver drops on lavender skin. Because I spoke against them. I told the council that conquest was the wrong path. I told them humans were worthy of respect, of partnership. I told them we could save our species without destroying yours. She laughed bitterly. They called me a traitor. They sentenced me to death. I escaped and sent a signal, hoping someone would find me before my own people did. You risked everything to warn us. I risked everything because it was right. She sat down beside him, close enough that he could feel the cool air that always surrounded her, like she carried a piece of space itself. I spent my whole life studying other species, learning their languages, their cultures, their dreams, and I learned that the Valari way is not the only way. There is another path, a better path. But my people are too afraid to walk it. They sat together in silence for a long time. Outside, the world was ending. In 3 days, the Valari fleet would begin its final assault. Billions would die. Humanity would become a memory, a warning, a ghost story told by conquerors to scare their children. But in this small room, in this quiet moment, something else was happening. Doyan watched Real as she picked up one of the books he had brought her. It was a collection of human music, printed before the war, filled with songs she would never hear. She turned the pages slowly, her fingers tracing the notes as if she could feel the melody. This is beautiful, she whispered. All of this, your art, your stories, your love, how can my people not see it? Maybe they see it, Doyan said. Maybe that's why they're afraid. She looked at him, her eyes shifting through colors. He was beginning to understand. Silver for sadness, blue for calm, gold for hope, and now a soft pink he had never seen before. I wish I could marry you, he whispered, the words escaping before he could stop them. He did not know why he said it. It was foolish, impossible, the dream of a man who had forgotten how to dream. But Real did not laugh. She did not look away. Instead, she smiled. It was not a smile at him exactly. It was bigger than that, wider. It was a smile at something vast and wonderful, something that went beyond, to people in a dark room waiting for the end of the world.
A species,
she said softly, is exactly what the Dominion fears. You look at death and still dream of love. You face extinction and still hope for tomorrow. You are everything we have lost, everything we wish we could be. She touched his face, her cool fingers gentle against his skin. That is why you will survive, she said. Because you are too human to give up. The door burst open. Hannah stood there, breathing hard, her face pale with urgency. We just intercepted Valari communications, she said. They've moved up the timeline. The final assault isn't in 3 days. She looked at Rio, then at Doyon. It's in 72 hours. Every ship they have is converging on Earth. This is the end, Rio stood, her expression changing from soft to steel. Then we have 72 hours to change everything, she said. I have a plan, but you will have to trust me. Hannah stared at her, 5 years of hatred and loss burning in her eyes. But she also saw something else, something she had not seen in a long time. A chance. Talk, she said. We're listening. The war room was full of ghosts, commanders who had lost their armies, leaders who had lost their nations, survivors who had lost everything except the will to keep fighting. They gathered from bunkers across the world, their faces appearing on cracked screens and damaged monitors, all listening to the same impossible proposal. Reel stood in the center of the room, surrounded by humans who had every reason to kill her. Her silver hair caught the dim light. Her eyes shifted nervously between colors. But her voice was steady. The Dominion has enemies, she explained. Many enemies. Species they have conquered, empires they have threatened, civilizations that hate them as much as you do. For 10,000 years, these enemies have been too afraid to strike. The Valari seemed unbeatable, immortal, eternal, but they are not. She activated a small device, and holographic images filled the air. Data files, genetic research, communications between Valari leaders, evidence of an empire built on lies. This is the truth they hide. The Valari are dying. They need humans to survive. If the galaxy learns this, everything changes. The Dominion's enemies will see weakness. They will attack. The Valari will be too busy fighting for their own survival to finish their war on Earth. Commander Beek Jeong spoke from a screen on the wall. He was 60 years old, scarred and gray, the leader of what remained of the Pacific Resistance. He had personally killed dozens of Valari soldiers. He trusted none of them. And how do we share this truth with the galaxy? He asked coldly. We can barely keep our own communications working. The Dominion flagship, Reel said. The Eternal Conquest. It carries the most powerful communication array in this sector. If we can reach it, we can broadcast to every receiver in the galaxy. Every ship, every planet, every species will hear the truth. You want us to attack the flagship? Guiyang laughed bitterly. That ship has destroyed fleets. It has weapons that can burn continents. We have 50 soldiers and 3 working shuttles. I know the ship, Reel said. I served on it. I know its weaknesses, its maintenance tunnels, its blind spots, and I know that the communication array is on a deck with minimal security. They never expected anyone to attack from inside. Dr. Shen Yonji stepped forward. She was 45, a geneticist who had lost her husband and 2 children in the first year of the war. She had spent the last week studying Reel's data, looking for lies, looking for traps. She had found none. The genetic research is real, Yunji said quietly. I verified it myself. The Valari are indeed dying, and human DNA could save them. Everything she's told us is true. That doesn't mean we can trust her, Jiang said. Doyen spoke for the first time. We've spent 5 years reacting, running, hiding, dying slowly. He looked at Reel, then at the screens full of tired, hopeless faces. This is the first chance we've had to do something that changes everything. Not just survive another day, but actually win. Hannah nodded slowly. He's right. We're dead either way. At least this way, we die fighting for something. The debate continued for hours. Some commanders agreed. Others refused, calling it suicide, calling Reel a spy, calling the whole plan insanity. In the end, it did not matter. The mission would go forward with whoever was willing. Hannah volunteered to lead the assault team. Doyon would handle communications. Reel would guide them through the ship and access the array. 12 soldiers joined them, one knowing they probably would not return. Among them was Nam Taiwu, a young man of 23 who had joined the resistance after watching his entire village burn. He was scared. Everyone could see it in his eyes. But he was also angry, and anger was stronger than fear. The night before the mission, Yunji pulled Do-yeon aside. "That alien girl," she said. "Real? She looks at you like you're the first kind thing she's ever known?" Do-yeon did not know how to respond. "I'm just trying to help." "No," Yunji shook her head. "It's more than that. I've studied Valari psychology as much as their genetics. They're taught from birth that other species are inferior, worthless, meant to be used. For her to see you differently, to care about you, that means something broke inside her. Something important." She put a hand on his shoulder. "Don't waste that, Do-yeon. Whatever happens tomorrow, don't waste what you two have found." He thought about her words as he walked to the hangar where the assault shuttle waited. The small ship was old, damaged, held together by hope and desperation. It would carry them into the heart of the enemy, into a place where death waited around every corner. Real was already there, standing alone in the shadows. Her eyes shifted to gold when she saw him. "Are you afraid?" she asked. "Yes," he admitted. "Are you?" "Terrified." She almost smiled. "I spent my whole life avoiding danger. Scholars are not warriors. We study, we learn, we watch from far away. But I cannot watch anymore. Not when there is something I can do." She took his hand. Her fingers were cool, gentle, steady despite her fear. "Whatever happens up there," she said, "you showed me that your people deserve to survive, that they are worth fighting for, dying for. That is already more than anyone has ever given me." Hannah appeared at the shuttle door. "We're ready." The team boarded. 15 humans and 1 Valari, flying toward the end of the world. As the shuttle lifted off, Do-yeon watched the ruins of Busan grow small below them, then disappear into the clouds. Earth hung in the darkness of space, blue and green and brown, scarred but still beautiful. Around it, the Valari fleet waited like sharks circling wounded prey. Hundreds of ships, thousands of weapons. An empire ready to finish what it had started. And in the center of it all, the eternal conquest. The flagship. The heart of the enemy. "There it is," Real whispered. The ship was massive, larger than any human construction, a mountain of metal and power floating in the void. Its weapons could destroy cities. Its shields could stop missiles. Its army numbered in the thousands. Against all of this, 15 humans and 1 traitor, Taewoo's hands were shaking on his weapon. Hannah's jaw was tight with determination. Do-yeon thought about everyone who had died to bring them to this moment. Everyone who was counting on them to succeed. The shuttle approached the flagship, using codes Real had stolen, pretending to be a maintenance vessel. So far, no alarms. No pursuit. Just silence and the cold emptiness of space. "We're through the outer sensors," Hannah announced. "Docking in 2 minutes." Real closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were pure gold, bright as suns. "Whatever happens," she said to everyone, "remember why we're here. Not for revenge. Not for glory. For truth. For hope. For a future where no species has to fear another." The shuttle locked. Onto the flagship's hull with a soft clang. The mission had begun. Everything went wrong within the first 5 minutes. The maintenance codes Real had stolen were old. Updated security systems flagged their shuttle as suspicious. By the time they realized the problem, Valari soldiers were already converging on their position. "Move," Hannah shouted. They ran through corridors of dark metal and pale light. The flagship was enormous, a maze of passages and chambers, designed by minds that did not think like humans. Real led the way, her silver hair streaming behind her as she guided them through routes only scholars knew. Plasma fire erupted around them. 1 soldier fell, then another. Taewoo screamed in fear but kept running, his weapon clutched in trembling hands. The sounds of pursuit echoed from every direction. "This way." Real pulled them into a narrow maintenance tunnel. It was cramped, dark, barely wide enough for humans to squeeze through. Valari soldiers, taller and broader, could not follow easily. The team crawled through pipes and cables. Listening to the angry shouts fading behind them, they emerged in a storage area filled with crates and machinery. Reel checked a small device in her hand. "The communication array is 3 levels up," she said, breathing hard. "If we can reach it, if we can hold it long enough for the upload, we win. And if we can't," Tai Wu asked, his voice shaking. "Then we die," Hannah said flatly. "But we die fighting. That's more than most people get." They moved through the storage area, then up emergency ladders, then through more corridors. Twice they encountered Valari patrols. Twice they fought through them, leaving bodies behind, taking wounds that they had no time to treat. By the time they reached the communication deck, only 9 of them remained. 9 humans, 1 Valari. And the weight of humanity's future. The array room was vast, filled with machines that hummed with power. Screens displayed information in alien languages. Cables as thick as arms ran into walls that glowed with strange energy. This was the voice of the Dominion, the system that let them command their empire across thousands of light years. "Doyen, start the upload," Reel said. "I'll interface with the system." He moved to a console, pulling out the data device that held everything. The evidence of Valari weakness. The truth that could save humanity. His fingers flew across controls that Reel had taught him to use during their days in the bunker. "Upload at 10%, he announced. Reel pressed her hands against a panel on the wall. Her eyes closed and the lights on the panel flickered. Scholar Caste Valari could connect directly with their technology, a gift that warriors did not possess. It was why she was essential to this mission. Without her, they could never access the array. Upload at 25%. The doors exploded inward. Valari soldiers poured into the room, their weapons firing. Hannah and the remaining team formed a line, shooting back, taking cover behind machinery. The air filled with the screams of combat. Taewoo was hit in the shoulder. He fell against a console, blood spreading across his uniform, but he kept firing with his good arm. His fear was gone now, replaced by something harder. Something human. Upload at 50%. A voice cut through the chaos, calm and cold. Broadcasting through the ship's speakers. "Little scholar." Reel's eyes snapped open. Her face went pale. "Did you think your human pets could save you?" The voice continued. "I knew you would come here eventually. I have been waiting." Doyen recognized the voice from intelligence briefings. High Commander Vorath, the leader of the Valari fleet. The one who had conquered half of Earth personally. The one who had sentenced Reel to death. "We will end your mongrel species," Vorath said, "and burn every human to ash. You have changed nothing, traitor. You have only delayed the inevitable." Reel's voice was steady when she responded, broadcasting on the open channel so everyone on the ship could hear. "You're afraid, Vorath. You've always been afraid. That's why you destroy instead of ask. That's why we're dying. Upload at 70%. More soldiers breached the room from a side entrance. Hannah took down 3 of them before a plasma bolt caught her in the leg. She fell but kept shooting from the ground. 75%. Taewoo dragged himself to Hannah's side, covering her with his own body, firing until his weapon ran empty. 80%. Main doors opened again, and this time, a single figure walked through. Tall, armored in black, with eyes that burned like dying stars. High Commander Vorath had come to end this himself. He carried a plasma blade, a weapon that could cut through metal like water. Behind him, his soldiers stopped firing. This was personal now. 85%. Vorath walked toward Reel, his blade humming with deadly energy. "You could have been great," he said. "You could have served the Dominion with honor. Instead, you chose these animals. These weak, pathetic creatures who cannot even save their own world." Reel stepped between Vorath and Doyen. Her hands were empty. She had no weapons, no armor, nothing but the courage of someone who had finally chosen a side. "They are not weak," she said. "They are the strongest species I have ever studied. They love in the face of death. They hope when there is no reason to hope. They fight for each other even when they know they cannot win. That is not weakness, Vorath. That is everything we have forgotten. 90%. Vorath raised his blade. Goodbye, little scholar. The upload completed. Across the galaxy, every receiver, every ship, every planet heard the truth. The data flooded through space at the speed of light, carrying evidence that could not be denied. Proof that the mighty Valari Dominion was dying and had tried to hide it through genocide. Riel looked back at Do-Yon. Her eyes were pure gold, bright and beautiful. Your species will survive now, she said, because you taught me what that's worth. Ouch, she smiled. The same smile she had given him when he whispered his impossible wish. A smile at something bigger than two people in a dying ship. A smile at humanity's fate. Vorath swung his blade. Hannah moved faster, despite her wounded leg. Despite her exhaustion, she threw herself at the High Commander with a knife in her hand. The blade found the gap in his armor, the weak point Riel had described during their planning. Vorath screamed and staggered backward. Around them, alarms began to wail. The flagship shuddered. On the screens, they could see other Valari ships breaking formation. Commanders arguing. Officers demanding answers about the broadcast that had just spread their deepest secret to the universe. We need to leave, Do-Yon said. He grabbed Riel's hand. Hannah limped toward them, supported by Taiwu. The remaining soldiers provided cover as they retreated toward the docking bay where their shuttle waited behind them. Vorath lay dying on the floor of the communication room. Cursing them with his last breath, they reached the shuttle somehow. Through corridors full of chaos and confusion, the Valari fleet was in disarray, ships turning on each other as officers chose sides. Some believed the broadcast. Some refused to believe. All of them had forgotten about 15 humans and one traitor escaping through the madness. The shuttle launched just as the Eternal Conquest began to burn, its core destabilized by the internal conflict. Through the viewport, Do-Yon watched the flagship tear itself apart, a giant dying in the darkness of space. Riel squeezed his hand. He did it, she whispered. Below them, Earth waited. Scarred, broken, but still there. Still alive, still human, 6 months changed everything. The broadcast shattered the Valari Dominion like glass. Within days of the truth spreading across the galaxy, 3 rival empires declared war. Species the Valari had conquered for centuries rose up in rebellion. Colonies that had lived in fear began to fight back. The fleet orbiting Earth turned on itself. Officers who believed in the old ways fought against those who saw the truth. Ships burned. Commanders died. And in the chaos, humanity crawled out of its bunkers and looked up at a sky that was no longer filled with enemies. Earth was free. Scarred by 5 years of war, poisoned by weapons and hatred, but free. The reconstruction began slowly. Cities that had been ruins became construction sites. Fields that had been battlegrounds became farms. Hospitals, schools, homes rose from the ashes. Built by hands that had learned to destroy, but now remembered how to create, Do-Yon stood at a memorial in rebuilt Busan, looking at the names carved into stone. Thousands of names. Millions of names. Every person who had died so that others could live. His parents were there. His sister, whose body they had finally found. Friends and strangers and heroes whose sacrifices had bought humanity another day. Another chance? Another breath. Riel stood beside him, her silver hair moving in the wind. She had become something unexpected in the months since the broadcast. A bridge between species. Valari refugees, scholars, and dissidents who had never believed in conquest began arriving on Earth seeking asylum. They came with knowledge and technology and a desperate hope that another way was possible. Dr. Shin. Yonji led the research teams that worked with them. The genetic studies continued, but not as forced harvesting, not as theft. Volunteers from both species worked together, sharing DNA, sharing futures. The Valari could be saved. Humanity could help them. It would take decades, maybe centuries, but the path was there. You could have hated us, Riel said softly, looking at the memorial. After everything the Dominion did, after everyone you lost, you could have let us die. Do-Yon thought about that. He thought about the anger he had carried for 5 years. The burning need for revenge that had kept him alive when everything else seemed meaningless. He thought about the moment he had first seen Real in those ruins, terrified and wounded and reaching out for help. Survival isn't about what you've done, he said. It's about what you choose to become. Real's eyes shifted through colors. Silver for the past. Blue for peace. Gold for something brighter. You wished you could marry me once, she said. Doyan's heart skipped. I remember, among my people, that wish is a binding thing. A promise. It cannot be taken back once spoken. He turned to face her fully. Among mine too. She smiled then, the same smile she had given him in that dark room beneath the ruins of Seoul. The same smile she had worn when she stood between him and death on the eternal conquest. A smile at something vast and wonderful. Something that went beyond species and wars and all the hatred in the universe.
Wow.
Then perhaps she said, we should keep that promise. We were married 3 months later. In a ceremony that combined human traditions and Valari customs, Hannah stood as witness, her leg healed but scarred, a permanent reminder of their impossible mission. Tai Wu was there too, his shoulder mostly functional, his fear replaced by a quiet confidence that came from surviving the unsurvivable. Leaders from both species attended. Humans who had fought against the Valari now worked alongside them. Valari who had once served the Dominion now questioned everything they had been taught. It was not easy. Old hatreds died slowly. But every day, more people chose hope over fear. The galactic community watched humanity with something like wonder. A species that had been 3 days from extinction had not only survived, but had changed the balance of power in the entire sector. Other civilizations reached out, offering alliances and trade agreements and simple friendship. Earth was no longer alone, and 1 year after the broadcast that saved humanity, in a hospital in rebuilt Busan, the first human Valari child was born. The doctors, both human and Valari, watched in silence as Doyan held his daughter for the first time. She was small and warm and perfect, with her mother's silver hair and her father's dark eyes. Her skin was a soft shade of lavender that caught the light like dawn. Real lay in the bed, exhausted but radiant, her eyes shifting through every color. Doyan had learned to read, and some he had never seen before. Joy, pride, love beyond words. She's beautiful, Hannah whispered from the doorway. She's what we could always have been. Real said softly, reaching out to touch her daughter's tiny hand. If we'd only been brave enough to ask. Doyan looked at his wife, at his child, at the friends who had become family through war and survival and hope. He thought about everything they had lost and everything they had gained. He thought about his parents, who would never see their granddaughter, and his sister, who would never know that her brother had helped save the world, but mostly he thought about the future. Outside the hospital window, the sun was rising over Busan. The city sparkled in the morning light. New buildings standing where ruins had been. Green parks growing where craters had scarred the earth. Ships moved through the sky, human and Valari, and dozens of other species. All of them learning to share a universe that had once seemed too small for anyone, and across the galaxy. Other species watched and wondered at humanity. The species that had faced extinction and responded not with hatred but with hope. The species that had been conquered and refused to be destroyed. The species that had taught an alien girl what love meant, and in doing so, had changed the fate of worlds. Real leaned against Doyan's shoulder, their daughter sleeping peacefully between them. I never thanked you, she said. For what? For finding me in those ruins. For giving me a chance when you had every reason not to. For showing me that another way was possible. Doyan kissed her forehead, her cool skin warm against his lips. You showed me the same thing, he said. We saved each other. The baby stirred, opening eyes that shifted color for the first time. Silver to blue to gold. Learning already to see the world in all its complicated beauty. Real smiled her impossible smile. I know what we should name her, she said. Hope, in every language I know, in human and Valari and all the others. The word for hope is the most beautiful sound. Doyan looked at his daughter. at the future, sleeping in his arms. Hope, he repeated, outside. The sun continued to rise, and humanity walked toward tomorrow.